Svartal and Soren circled each other in the gloomy practice chamber, faint light glinting off Soren's dark twin swords, which shifted fluidly between different lengths as he calmly paced around, eyes firmly on the mirror. Across from him, Svartal gripped his sword in one hand and his staff in the other, the Nira's golden scale shimmering as he moved with fluid precision, slithering across the ground to match Soren's steps. Both boys wore determined expressions as they sought to read the other. "Ready when you are," Soren called with a smirk, the handsome drow spinning his weapons into a defensive stance. Spartal gave a slow nod, the tip of his blade lowering slightly as his tail coiled beneath him like a spring. In the blink of an eye, he lunged forward, staff sweeping low towards Soren's knees to try and trip him up. The drow leapt gracefully over the swipe in a bunny hop, before extending one of his swords and slashing down towards Spartal's exposed wrist. With an agile twist, the Nira brought his staff up and deflected the blade with a sharp clang. He pivoted, using the momentum to slash his sword towards Soren's ribs. Soren shifted back just enough to avoid the strike, feeling the faint rush of air from the near miss, as his twin blades slackened and transformed into his signature twin whips. He suddenly snapped one of them forward, aiming for Spartal's shoulder as he closed back in, before the Nira twisted his torso, allowing the whip to snap harmlessly towards his side as his tail lashed out, aiming to unbalance the drow. Anticipating the move, Soren quickly halted his advance and shuffled back with a smirk. Spartal grinned, revealing his sharp fangs as he pushed his advantage, rushing forward and feinting with his sword as he shortened his range and jabbed forward with his staff, an attack which Soren barely managed to deflect, but the force still sent him sliding back a step. The drow chuckled, rolling his shoulders as he shifted his whips back to twin short swords, and darted in, attempting to overwhelm the Nira, who wisely kept Soren at range with parries or trying to seek openings in the drow's defense. A sword thrust from Soren grazed past Spartal's side, deflected by the Nira's quick block, who retaliated by swinging his staff at Soren's head. The drow ducked at the last second, countering with a spinning slash from his sword, which came dangerously close to Spartal's neck, before it was sharply battered away by Spartal's own blade. Both fighters backed away from the exchange and paused, breathing heavily. "You're getting better," Soren finally praised, sheathing his weapons and patting Spartal enthusiastically on the back. "Us drow are of course the master race, but it's exceptional individuals like you and your sister that belong right there with us." "Thanks, Soren," Spartal sighed as he dismissed his weapons, though he was slightly disappointed with his personal performance. "Though I don't understand why you would restrict the use of magic in our spars," the drow continued. "You fight with a combination of spells and strength at arms, after all, is what makes you deadly, and is why you defeated Devil's Daughter." "True," the Nira admitted, "but I still need to get better. Working on my limitations in melee combat is a good way forward. At the very least, I want to be able to train to a level where I can at least hold my own without having to rely on magic, and practice with a few of the new tricks I picked up." The image of a certain human sprang to mind when he said that. "I suppose I understand," Soren shrugged. "I am much the same, though it's my own magic I need to work on, but thanks to your assistance, I'm at least getting better." "Of course," Spartal nodded, as Cravel barged through the thick doors into the practice room, a scowl on his face as he looked at something on his comlink. "We gather in the council chamber in 15 minutes, the wizard told them. "All hands are expected." "For what purpose?" someone asked curiously. "I didn't think we had anything scheduled." "We don't." Cravel shook his head, scowling again at something on his comlink. "Something came up, but I don't know much." "Very well," Soren nodded before smirking. "Any luck, brother?" "No." Cravel scowled, showing the image on his comlink to his brother. Spartal snuck a glance and could see Cravel had one of his dating apps open. "Perhaps you should take a break," Soren pointed out with a grin, but his point fell on deaf ears.
"Can you believe this shit?" Cravel snarled angrily. "Under interests, this dumb bitch has selected empathy and emotional intelligence. What kind of fucking interests are those supposed to be? Is this chick retarded or something?" "You only get 5 interests you can publicly display on that service, I believe," Spartal asked, as Cravel nodded. "Clearly they're not worthy of your attention."
he pointed out as diplomatically as he could, trying to placate the otherwise abrasive house wizard. The working relationship between the two was frosty at best. "What happened to that match you got the other day?" Soren asked, trying not to let his amusement show too much, while Cravel barely paid him any notice. "Vivren, I believe, seemed receptive enough."
"It didn't work out," Cravel growled out under his breath.
"Oh? Why not?" Soren asked, and Sparta wiped his mouth with the back of his hand to hide his smile.
"Single mother," Cravel shrugged. "We were talking, she mentioned she had a child, and I offered to sacrifice it to kill Latosh to relieve her of her mistake, while making actual use of it."
"That was nice of you," Spartle spoke up, unable to control his words, while Soren snorted in amusement. Cravel's scowl deepened at his brother's reaction. "What happened?" Soren finally asked as he composed himself.
"She fucking blocked me!"
Cravel sneered, which completely set Soren off. "It was a good try, brother." The Slayer laughed his ass off.
"Fuck you!"
Cravel yelled at him, pointing to Spartle.
"It's not like you're doing any better trying to get with his sister."
"All right, I deserved that one," Soren acknowledged, his laughter dying down as he turned to Spartle. "It's a shame, really. It's been many weeks now, and she's done good work for us, just as you have. And she has more than earned her position with our family. We've done what we can to make her feel welcome as one of us, yet I feel she is unreceptive."
"I am sure there are others that will be receptive."
Spartle shook his head, keeping his tone neutral, having coached himself in his mind of what to say, if the topic came up again.
"However, I do not believe my sister is of that persuasion."
"Oh," Soren scoffed. "That explains it." He let out a sigh. "Well, such dispositions can be cured. We certainly have the means at our disposal, should we wish to."
"I shall make her aware of the option."
Spartle nodded diplomatically, fighting to keep the revulsion he felt from that out of his tone, and having no intention of even remotely suggesting Sparty going along with it.
"Though I am sure you can find others more suitable for your needs."
"True. Unlike Crevel, I can still take my pick of our slave class, though I don't believe we've had any good livestock coming in recently. The followers of Commander Cocaine are of such poor quality." Soren sighed. "Though, come to think of it, I don't believe you or your sister have requisitioned any of the slaves since you arrived. I understand if you simply wish to be cautious in utilizing House Markar resources, though you should not worry. It is your right to make use of a few."
Spartle shrugged, trying not to let his discomfort show. "Svati and I are simply used to being self-sufficient, so we just do without. And slavery is little different to how we once were," the Nera thought to himself bitterly. "Though at least our lot improved drastically with House Malkar."
Cravel's comlink suddenly beeped, and he looked up at the two others.
10-minute warning. I've been here too long. Help me gather the others."
"This had better be good," Soren sighed as he exited the room. "Good spar, Spartle. Go again same time tomorrow?"
"Sounds good to me.
"Thank you, Soren," Spartle agreed, walking after him and heading to his and Svarti's apartment to let her know about the meeting. Though as he quickly made his way over there, a thought crept in the back of his mind. A dangerous thought. While he very much abhorred the concept of slavery, and while Soren had mentioned his sister more than once, House Malkar had helped them, taken them both in, and treated them well when nobody else would. Well, none that would take both of them together. They were free of their father. House Malkar were hunting Vashil down. They now lived in an affluent building, with excellent food, and both of them had very much come into their own since leaving. He should be feeling great. So why did he feel so restless?
"Do not despair, Master."
He heard the voice of Caro call over their shared bond, where it sounded like his familiar had just woken up from a nap.
"You have suffered a life none should ever face. It is unreasonable to expect you to adjust to life here within the space of a month or two. And I know you still have nightmares about those children Braska killed. That's not on you. You'll get better over time." "I hope so."
Spartle sighed to himself as he slithered down the corridor, politely standing aside as several of the servants made their way past, giving him an appreciative smile. I just need to figure these things out on my own and suck it up. Is my sister there?
She's in her meditation chamber,
Caro confirmed. Good, Svartal answered. I'll awaken her and we'll head to the meeting. I'll need you with me too.
And here I was hoping for a longer nap.
You're a spirit, you don't need to. Svartal smirked as he made it to the door of their apartments.
Of course I don't, but I don't know how to change the channel on your television, Caro admitted. So what else would you have me do?
Fair enough, Svartal shrugged. Maybe we have something of interest coming up.
Unlikely to be an emergency, Caro pointed out. I guess we'll find out soon.
I guess we will. Svartal spoke aloud as he opened the door, extending his arm and smiling as Caro quickly flew over. He reached into one of his pockets and pulled out several chopped up bits of dark fruit, which he fed to the bird, who greedily nommed them down and sent a sensation of contentment down their mental link, as Svartal crossed the room to the small meditation chamber and gently knocked.
Svati, our presence is required, he patiently called out.
Svartal? She called back, opening the door and blinking back fatigue. I'm not in the inner circle.
They've requested all hands, he explained. Don't know why.
Oh no. His sister sighed worriedly.
I'm sure it's fine.
He patted her on the shoulder.
We need to go now, however. Full gear. It's best if we're not late. We've got about 7 minutes.
All right. Svarti nervously nodded as she muttered a word of power, magically changing her outfit from the loose, comfortable robe she wore for her meditation into a set of sorceress robes that had been gifted to her from Clan Barzum.
Let's go.
The two of them arrived on time, with many members of the Malkar family already seated towards the head of the great table, with Dextra sat near the front playing on a handheld games console, only looking up briefly to give the two of them a small wave, as Soren and Cravel took their seats nearby. One of the servants motioned to them, and wordlessly escorted them both to their prearranged seats towards the back of the room, and Svartal scowled as he spotted both Braska and Yix, and casually sat on the opposite side. Both had clearly been outfitted well from the House Malkar armory, just like he had, with Braska wearing a full suit of the heaviest metal armor Svartal thought possible, and the weapons the two carried looked top of the line. He knew that both of them had been deployed heavily during House Malkar's campaign to make an example of Commander Cocaine's forces wherever they showed up, but he hadn't been personally involved in the campaign since Commander Cocaine himself attacked the House Malkar compound, and didn't know too many of the details. After they took their seats, the rest of the room quickly filled up, with Isadora arriving just on time, flanked by Vatrix and all, looking dead serious and worried as they took their seats at the head of the table.
Welcome, everybody, Isadora began. I have called you here for a reason, as we are expected to be addressed by Matron Mother Carastrix. While we wait for her signal, we have other matters to discuss.
Naturally, the main topics on the agenda involve the campaign against Commander Cocaine, with members of the family speaking about propaganda efforts, as well as intel gathering. Svartal tuned out at this point, not being involved or particularly interested, until his name came up.
Also, certain elements within Clan Barzum have invited our resident Sigillus to visit their main clan holding, though they have not requested the same from our enchanter, who they cite as still needing to recover.
Isadora continued, looking to Svartal, who looked back to the young matriarch curiously.
Specifically, the triplets are inviting you as bloodkin. Ha! I was wondering why I haven't seen Darcy hanging around. She used to be latched onto you like a rash.
Braska laughed mockingly at Svartal.
But between the drow and these Hoduf, it makes sense. But I never expected you to be an oil driller.
Drow from all around the table glared daggers at the Bowner for the comment, but Svartal kept his cool, as he felt a slight tingling sensation coming from his right hand, feeding off his hatred for his enemy. He knew what it was, of course. On one of the digits on his right hand was a band of deep, polished silver, etched with faint serpentine patterns that seemed to ripple in the light. At its center rested a striking blue gem, oval-shaped and as clear as tropical waters, with faint flickers of light dancing like distant stars. His gift from Clan Barzum, among other things.
Regardless, our negotiations are pushing for you to bring a few representatives from House Malkar,
Isadora continued, eyes narrowing dangerously at Braska,
who will use the opportunity to scout out opportunities we can take advantage of.
Understood, Spartawl nodded, not particularly relishing the idea.
Next, Braska, what are your findings from Cypherport?
Isadora continued.
Oh yeah, that was fun, the Baronov chuckled. We easily took the village with no fatalities on our end, and plenty on theirs. The rest couldn't surrender fast enough. Now, as to what happened there, we have conflicting reports.
Haldra Malkar spoke up, the stern torturer having had her work cut out for her with a heavy influx of fresh captives.
Unfortunately, none of the captives we recovered were present during the incident itself. Many confirm the death of the Redeemer, but don't know why he was even there. Many are saying Commander Cocaine was probably responsible for killing him, but when questioned sharply, they could not reliably confirm as such. An interesting question to ask the Commander when we get him into a torture chamber, Isadora smiled. It doesn't matter. The events at Cypherport matter not to us unless we claim a bounty. What have you done with the prisoners? House Malkar will earn a considerable amount once we transfer the captives to a particularly interested buyer I'm well acquainted with, Vatrix confirmed. Keeping them here will be asking for trouble. Very well. There is nothing else we need to address, but where is Jazeel? Isadora asked the gathered group. I know he is out in the field, but he should have returned the moment the recall signal was sent out. Hang on. Dexter sighed lazily, as she divided her attention and looked into cyberspace. No acknowledgement. He's probably in a dead zone or something. She shrugged. Then we will do without him, all growled, as a comm chime suddenly rang out from the speaker device on the table. There's no time. We can't leave her waiting. Isadora took a deep breath, leaned forward, and pressed a button on the device. The large hologram of an older drow woman appeared on the table, and immediately the room felt smaller. She was unfamiliar to Spartawl, with her dark skin blending well with her obsidian robes, which shimmered faintly with heavy enchantments. Long, spindly fingers clutched a priestess's staff, topped with a cluster of glowing, venom-green crystals, and her thin lips were perpetually curled into a sneer. Her narrow, sharp eyes glowed faintly red, taking in the gathering with disdain, before finally she spoke. Look at you all, she sneered, her venomous voice low and rasping with contempt. Pathetic. Sitting there like a clutch of mewling infants, waiting for a meal to be dropped into your mouths. I expect results and all I see is failure. I am ashamed to be related to you. Greetings, Mother. It is always so good to hear from you again. Vatrix was the first to speak up, her tone a challenging one, as she met the woman's gaze directly, her tone dripping with sarcasm, as other drow around the table stared at her in shock at the audacity. You dare speak to me in such a way, girl? The woman yelled, as Vatrix held her ground. I should flay you alive for your impertinence! So this must be Matron Mother Carasterix, Spartawl thought to himself. Isadora is the matriarch in Naganai, but House Malkar is more than just those in the city. What failures do you speak of, Mother? Isadora asked, in a picture of stoic calm. House Malkar has achieved much success under my leadership in the last several months. What failures? The Matron Mother repeated, as she looked at her notes, a furious expression on her face. Openly attacked and humiliated by this Commander Cocaine? Failing to assassinate and make an example out of Jack Frost? And losing valuable drow lives in the process? And something I have noticed immediately. She gave a withering stare, as she looked around at everyone in the room. Why are there filthy non-drow in my presence? She snapped furiously. Clearly my presence is required. If you yourselves are so incompetent, you require the employment of inferior races. Across from them, Spartawl could see Yix begin to open her mouth to say something,
before Braska shook her head, barely a step away from making a comment herself. Svartal was not as foolish.
Prepare for my arrival.
Matron Karastrix then curtly ordered, as the call was abruptly terminated. Well, that could have gone worse. Soren finally spoke up, to a series of chuckles from around the room. Though Svartal didn't join them in their humour. They were dismissed immediately afterwards, and both Nira headed to their chambers. He of course did his best to reassure Svarti, suggesting that she could simply make herself scarce for a few days during the visit, spending some time with Glenfarrenix and her friends while he remained behind. Where else could he go? He belonged here. Right?